Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we are currently in the tail end of the Mir mission. We are very close here to deorbiting Mir, and I just want to get some of the debris that we've left here removed. So let's get this debris terminated. There's only some of it here, but there's also some that is splashed down that we're going to be able to recover. I'm not sure how much there actually is here, and I'm not sure if we're going to get anything from recovering it in terms of, like, finances. But we'll get those recovered that are currently splashed down. Some of these are on suborbital trajectories. I'm just going to get rid of them for the moment. So we don't need to have any of this here. That's just consuming system resources that don't need to be consumed. There we go, and let's hop on out to what it thinks is the shuttle, but this is actually the shuttle docked up to the Mir core module. And at this point, the question is, how long do we want to run our science mission for? Well, we can definitely deorbit this shuttle, no doubt about that, and we can grab the infrared telescope reading, I suppose. We could keep that experiment, and then we could collect that experiment, like, out over here. So the way that I would do that for right now, both of our scientists are currently here, but can we just simply review this data? Can we move this data elsewhere? I want to just grab it here, but we don't have a, like, science collection module here, so I think we would have to grab it with one of our scientists. So for now, let's have Heidi here is going to EVA. Hatch is obstructed. Oh, we can enter, but we can't exit? That's interesting. So we're going to transfer Heidi then over to, say, it'll have to be like, it doesn't really have to be here, but we could definitely do something like that. So we would then, oh, I don't want to transfer, I want to EVA Heidi. Okay. So Heidi is going to go grab this data and then place it inside of the shuttle, is the idea here. So we're going to head straight on down. Wonderful. Something like this. I want to collect this data. Can we not collect the data from the infrared telescope? Data's there, right? It's there, yeah. Okay, never mind. We can't collect this data. So I guess it's fine. This'll have to do then. So again, we don't want to break this solar panel if we can at all help it. So we're just going to come on in over this direction. Looks good. We'll grab onto this ladder here. And we'll board. Okay. So I guess that's the best we can do there. We do currently have our research ongoing, and we're going to transmit back this science when we can. But for now, I think it's time for the space shuttle to head on back. Now, we're not really proofed for land landings on the space shuttle yet. That'll be part of the shuttle program, which we've technically not done yet. Things are a little bit awkwardly ordered. Out of curiosity, this has a built-in Octo 2, right? Yes. Okay, so that'll be fine to autopilot back with the two scientists. So we can then definitely undock this docking port here. There we go. And off goes the shuttle. So I'm going to RCS here. Okay, that's mildly awkward directionality. I want to control from here for the moment. And we're just going to push away from the station like so. We don't have to push very much. And now we can control from here. And we're going to unextend our docking arm. We're going to start folding this all back up. So we're going to bring this back to an angle of 0 and back to an angle of... Well, this will need to be an angle of 90, won't it? But for now, we'll just move this right on around. And it's interesting how this actually acts as a reaction wheel, but okay. There we go. So we'll just do something like that. And then we'll put this back at a 90-degree angle for storage purposes. There we go. And we will close our cargo bay. Perfect. So now we're, of course, going to need to deorbit this. Again, we are not proofed for land landings at this juncture. So I'm just going to take us over to orbital retrograde. Something along the lines of that. And what direction is retrograde? This is mildly an awkward direction, but if we rotate our wing like so, it should be reasonably fine. Okay, so let's just get ourselves out of here, and we'll keep our speed relatively low until we clear the station. And then we're going to drop our periapsis down. We're not going to be coming in fast with this thing, that's for sure. So let's get on out of here. We're going to drop our periapsis down to about 80 kilometers here. So downward we go. And we're not really in a hurry because we have a lot of science to to get on the Mir station yet before we deorbit that. So that's absolutely okay. And we'll bring this down to about 80 kilometers, which is about here. This will have to be a water landing at this point, because we're definitely not ready for a land landing. Our lift and aerodynamics need substantial additional testing before that ends up happening. So let's circularize this at 80 kilometers for right now. I want to make sure we're going to be landing in a particular spot. So that'll be fine. We'll just circularize that right on down. Let's head on around to the node here. Wonderful. We've got lots of delta V for this. I'm not concerned about that in the slightest. So over we go to the node, and have we already unloaded the Mir station? I believe we have. Which is good. Things get much smoother when that happens. So we're going to warp on forward here. We need to fall on down to our periapsis. So downward we go. 5 more minutes. Excellent. And 1 minute on our burn. Cool. We can warp forward a little further, of course. 40 seconds. 30. 20. 10. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. And off we go. We're keeping our thrust to weight fairly low here, although it has risen as we burned out our fuel, but that is to be expected. And at this point, I don't want to re-enter the atmosphere. I want to control where we end up re-entering at. So we're just going to bring this right on down. This is good enough. We've overshot a little bit, but we are still outside of the atmosphere. So that looks good. This is our actual orbit here, so we would want to warp around until we have a nice long stretch of ocean. Now, I want to keep in mind, on this inclination, there's going to be a lot of land, isn't there? Okay, let's bring this on around. It looks to me like this stretch of ocean here is going to be our best bet. So let's head over to retrograde. We are warping still? Okay, let's head over to retrograde now. There we go. And let's get this brought right on down. We're going to set this periapsis to be approximately, I'm going to go for 20 kilometers here. We'll see how this feels. Okay, so now we're going to need to swap over to prograde before we hit the atmosphere. That's definitely going to be a necessary sort of thing. And I'm just going to delay when we fire these drogue chutes for a while here. That'll probably be a useful thing to do. So let's bring this right on around, and we're just going to get ourselves a decent amount of deceleration here. We're just going to lock to, for right now, horizontal velocity up is where I want to be. So we've got the surface velocity here, and there we go. Okay, so downward we go. We're going to hit the atmosphere at a pretty steep angle here, but we're just going to bring that right on down. Phenomenal. And let's start getting some deceleration going. So we're going to be looking to land in this ocean somewhere over here, ideally. We'll see how that works with our gliding, because we're definitely going to be gliding for quite a ways. For the time being, let's physics warp as we go on through. Cool. So we're just looking to hold altitude as long as possible and have just as much air as possible between us and the ground at this moment. But we can see our periapsis height is dropping on down, which is fully expected. It will continue to drop as we continue to drop. We've got lots of water between us and the next continent, but hopefully it's enough. We would really prefer not to land on land. That would be pretty bad, actually, if we were to land on land. As a hypothetical, I'm going to turn our thrust limiters back up just in case we end up needing them. But let's start bringing, hopefully, our surface speed down here pretty soon. We can see our periapsis height is currently still 7 kilometers above the ground. We are decreasing speed now, so that's looking good. And our periapsis height is now negative. We can see we are currently looking at landing in this bit of continent over here. Okay. Well, that's actually quite spicy. That's quite spicy indeed. Let's position ourselves here for the time being, and I guess we'll see how this goes. We're not proofed for ground landing, but if we have to ground land, we'll ground land. We haven't tested it, but we'll see how it goes. So we're still working on holding attitude a bit here, although we're currently pointing a little bit more down than I would like to be. Oh, we are hard flipping. Okay. So that's definitely something that we need to tackle. No doubt about that. This is going to get us a lot of drag. So I guess that's okay. Let's activate our gear action group at this time. And this is why I unthrust limited our engines, to be clear. So, like I said, this is a problem, and this is a known issue, that this likes to flip around and go in retrograde rather than prograde. Known issue, and for the moment, it's reasonably fine. So I guess we'll just bring this around to retrograde. I do want to turn on the brakes action group. And actually, what we want to be doing is going to a horizontal velocity, whether it's up or down, actually doesn't really matter to us. What is horizontal velocity down going to put us at? Yeah, so this is, I think, just a matter of mass to lift distribution. So at this point, this is when we would usually deploy the parachute. Because we can see we have a lot of vertical speed and not a lot of horizontal speed, and we actually kind of want to have the opposite. So I'm going to deploy the parachute to try to get us some horizontal speed here. Did it actually deploy? No. Deploy those chutes, please. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to bring this around. The chutes are entering full deployment, and that should help us bring this right on around and stop this spin. Cool. And now we're going to look to bring this to horizontal velocity up at this point, because we want to convert as much of this vertical speed into horizontal speed as we can right now. So we want to bring this guy... Ooh, that's an interesting attitude change. Let's kill rot here. And let's just try to bring this as up as we can. We're really trying to rotate a lot here. Okay. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just trying to bleed off as much horizontal speed as I can while holding our vertical speed. It's kind of awkward, to be sure. Okay. Well, that kind of worked, actually. So this is a problem with our attitude, right? But this thing is very resilient, no doubt about it. It's not ideal as far as the landing goes. We still need to work on that for a land landing. I feel like our sea landings are fine. The land landing was, well, the core problem there is we had too much vertical speed and not enough horizontal. We want to be landing this thing like a plane, right? And it was a little bit complicated to do. I probably should have burned again there, but I wanted to see how that would play out. And that was a very interesting result. So we need to work on the aerodynamics of this thing, but as far as the shuttle mirror program is concerned, I'm going to consider that a success. And what that ends up meaning is that we get a payment for our shuttle flight, We also get a payment for the shuttle Mir program as a subcategory. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that's a lot of payment there. No doubt about that. The shuttle itself requires additional development, and the shuttle program is going to be done next before we do the actual ISS. I want to get the actual landing portion of the shuttle down. The rest of it is pretty good, but that landing portion definitely needs work. There's no doubt about that. So that's all fine. We get a good amount of cash there. And now we need to determine how much we want to time warp to get the science from the remainder of the Mir program, right? So we need to hop on over to the Mir station, and then we're going to have to deorbit the thing. The question is, do we disassemble it and deorbit it in modules, or do we deorbit the whole thing all at once? That's an interesting question. I don't know. We've got this shuttle debris that we're going to recover. That was actually one of those vector engines, which is pretty valuable, so getting that back is great. And then we're going to fly the Mir core module here. But we are going to need to warp this for a while. So, let's get into position, and let's... I'm going to cut out the warp. I'm not going to make you guys watch the entire warp here. But let's close this service bay. And let's pin this guy open so that I can see how much data we still have. And we're going to warp this on forward quite a ways. It's going to get kind of flashy here, and I apologize for that. But I'll see you guys once this is done. Okay, so round 1 here is good to go. We have 500 out of 500 science, so we're just going to transmit that right on over. And then we'll get a second round of this going as soon as we've got the science available. We're, of course, currently at capacity, so we'll transmit that right on over, and there we go. Now we're going again, and I'll see you guys in just a moment. Okay, so we are full on science again, and let's transmit that straight on back. Now, our rate is definitely decreasing substantially, and at a certain point, we're going to call it good enough and just head on home. But the question is, what point is that? Are we there yet? I don't know. I'm going to run this for a while, and I'll be back in a moment. Okay, yeah, this is definitely taking long enough that I don't think it's worth running this. It took quite a while to get 2 science. So I'm going to transmit that science back, we'll call that good, and we are now done with the Mir station, but we first need to deorbit it and bring our scientists back. So we're going to transfer Heidi and Bob over to the Soyuz over here. Excellent. There we go. They are transferred on over, and we're going to deorbit the Soyuz. The question is still, do we want to deorbit this entire system here? Do we want to deorbit the entire system as one block? Or do we want to break it apart and deorbit as pieces? Well, we don't have engines on certain of these pieces, so I think one block is fine. We'll see how that goes. For now, we need to bring our Soyuz back, and the Soyuz can come back basically any way we want it to. So we'll just bring this right on out, and we'll turn RCS off. We'll head on over to retrograde. We're not too concerned about how this thing comes back, so let's just bring this right on down. And downward we go. Goodbye, Mir Station. No one will be coming back to you, although we will still deorbit it. That is definitely something that is going to be happening here. So we're going to take this around to a periapsis of about 10 kilometers. I don't think we need, well... our apoapsis is a bit on the high side. It's fine. We'll take it to 10 kilometers, and we can do like a re-entry burn. That's completely okay. So 10 kilometers, that'll do. Although, honestly, you know what? This isn't coming back. Let's not worry about that. Let's just ditch our trunk here, and let's head straight on in. Excellent. So we do have draining electric charge. That's definitely a thing, but this thing should be aerodynamically stable enough. I'm not too concerned about it. So around we come, and we're just going to position ourselves back at retrograde here. Yeah, we've still got like half of our electric charge. So that seems okay for the time being. Let's bring these right on down. We do need to move this up, though. Cool. So that'll be fine. And we are already decelerating. No real issues here whatsoever. We already have ourselves a landing zone. It looks like we're going to be landing currently in the shores Now in water, it's probably like this water here. It might end up being on land over here. We'll see how that ends up going. But yeah, we're not draining much electric charge right now. And that's our trunk burning up. That's good. We like that. Impact biome of grasslands. Looks good. Okay, so let's get our drogues out. And our mains. Phenomenal. Land landing is exactly what we're looking for these Soyuz capsules, so that makes sense. On this inclination, it seems like it's a lot more just likely that it's going to be a land landing, just based on the way that things are shaped. So that's fine. That's absolutely okay. Water landings are more likely equatorial, but let's bring this right on down. Gonna be landing in this, like, suburb. I'm sure it'll be fine. It's not a real suburb, it's just a texture. But yeah, that's definitely what we've got going on here. So we're just going to physics warp this on down to the ground. We'll have absolutely no problem with it. We are currently about 600 meters up, falling at 6 meters per second. So not too bad here. Then we're going to need to deorbit the station. And I think I'm just going to deorbit it with one single engine burn from those 4 twitches that are on the station core. So that's going to be the goal there. It's going to wobble around a lot, but at this point we don't really care if it gets, like, smashed up, right? We're literally trying to burn it up in the atmosphere. So let's bring this on down. And touchdown. Fantastic. So we'll recover the Soyuz. That is absolutely fine. And we're going to have to be building the ISS with a combination of the shuttle and Soyuz. So we're going to have to get the shuttle... We're going to have to get the shuttle's problems ironed out before we start building the ISS, I think. So that'll be the goal. We're going to get the shuttle's problems ironed out, then build the ISS, then that'll be fine. From there, we're probably going to move on to, like, the Chinese station, or stations at this point, plural. And then we'll do, like, Crew Dragon, Artemis, and call it good. Artemis technically hasn't happened yet, but it's in progress, so we'll call it good. Okay, so there's another Soyuz done. Let's get our funding for that. There we go. And then we'll hop over to our tracking station. And this will be finishing off the Mir program overall. So let's just get this deorbited and get Mir in the mirror. The rear view mirror. Excellent. So we're going to have to control from a particular location here, because we know where these twitches are pointing, right? We've got these twitches here. So we want to control from this command pod. We'll control from here, and then that means that we want to flip around to retrograde. These are the only actual engines on here, but we've got lots of delta V for this deorbit. Our thrust to weight is pretty low, but that's to be expected, to be honest. So let's just get ourselves positioned with the twitches pointing retrograde. And then from there, we can bring this down to a periapsis height of, honestly, 10. That's a little bit on the loud side. I'm going to zoom out so that it's not quite so loud, but it's going to be some pretty lengthy burn times, I think. We're not bothering with any sort of a maneuver for this. It really doesn't matter. We just want to bring this down to a periapsis of about 10 kilometers, and then we'll have that fully deorbited. We'll let it burn up as much as we can in the atmosphere, and then the rest of it will crash. And that's okay. 300 kilometers is our current periapsis height, so we have dropped it by almost a quarter at this point. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a burn. Oh, wow, we're basically at the apoapsis. That's because of when we started the burn, isn't it? I don't think that was coincidental. That's because we started the burn, and so the apoapsis just happens to be around here. Right? I'm pretty sure that's right. So we're down to about 250 now. It's definitely low thrust to weight, but we knew that that would be the case. And we've got quite a lot of burn time on here, 900 seconds, allegedly. Yeah, probably actually about 900 seconds. Cool. So I'm kind of tempted to physics warp here, but with the amount of stability this engine, or rather this station has, I don't think that's a great concept. So I'm not going to do that at this moment. We're bringing this down to about 200 now. We've got a ways to go. And yeah, I really don't think we should physics warp it. I think that's a terrible idea. This thing is going to go all over if we do. 180. So that's looking absolutely fine. And I'm going to zoom in here. Apologies. The twitches are going to get kind of loud. But the stability is surprisingly good. Is there any way we can turn down just Twitch engines? That would be really nice if we could. I don't think there is a way to turn down just the Twitch engine. Every other engine is fine, but that one is really, really loud. So we're just going to be sitting back over here, I guess. We're at a periapsis of 140 now. And we can see we do have a pretty steady yaw and pitch to hold this attitude. So, I mean, that's because our mass is offset, right? We're not exactly centered on these twitches, which makes sense. Absolutely, that makes sense. So we're getting this down to around 110 now. 105. And 100 kilometers. Fantastic. We're definitely seeing our orbital speed dropping here. That's great. And we're just angling for 10 kilometers on this periapsis, and we'll just let this thing crash. It'll claim that it's a catastrophic failure, but it's absolutely not. It was a catastrophic success. We got a lot out of this thing, actually. Quite a lot of pay, although we invested a lot into it, but I think ultimately we at least broke even on it. But I think we did ultimately end up making a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. We might be able to recover some of it, but I'm willing to bet significant portions are going to burn up, and almost nothing will survive the impact, especially if we're landing on land. If we're landing on water, maybe we have some impact survivors, but I'm not holding my breath here. So we're down to around 20 kilometers. We just switched into flight mode. And 10 kilometers as of now. Okay, we'll call that good. And in we go. It doesn't really matter what attitude we hold this thing in. It's kind of crazily shaped. Really, we might want to, like, control from here. And then have this be at retrograde. I don't think it's actually letting us control from here. No, that's the same direction, isn't it? Okay. Interesting. Well, let's warp on forward. We actually want this to be pointing prograde in that case. Okay, let's flip this on around because I want this, like, cross to be facing forward as, like, a heat shield. It's, this is not going to go well, for the record. But that's fine. It doesn't have to. So we're going to bring this on down, and yeah, things change kind of crazily with our inclination. But that's okay. So we're going to position ourselves again around, I think, 80 kilometers. Okay. Around now-ish, but I started that at 90, and it took a moment. That's fine. We're just going to position ourselves here and head on down. We're moving pretty quickly right now, but we're going to attempt to hold attitude here. Physics warp is going to make this go pretty crazy, and that's fine. We don't really care what it ends up doing here. We're going to lose a lot of solar panels. We're going to lose everything here. We expect this entire station to be a write-off. Yeah. We're losing attitude. Oh, things are going very spicily. I brought us out of physics warp there. We would like it if everything burned up in the atmosphere, honestly. And there's definitely a lot of stuff that is burning up in the atmosphere. No doubt about that one. We are tumbling at this time. I'm going to turn Smart ASS off and just let us tumble freely. And we'll just watch the fireworks. Cool. So our impact biome is currently water, although I'm guessing are going to be landing on this land. If I had to guess, that would be what I would guess. Land landings for a station is definitely not ideal, but it's fine. It's completely fine. We're entering a bit of a tumble. This is fine. We're doing this completely uncontrolled. So no problem here. We are slowing down pretty markedly. I'm kind of surprised by how much has survived this. I'm rather surprised by how much has survived this so far. We're slowing down extremely markedly here, and yeah, it's doing pretty well. I actually expected the joints to fail, and they haven't. So Sure, that seems fine. We're just going to bring this right on down. We're not going to have any more parts burning up in the atmosphere. Of course, we did lose all of our solar panels and antenna and magnetometers. That's all expected. No surprises there. We're making zero attempt to control this, although perhaps we should. If we did attempt to control this, what would it look like? It's intriguing. Looks like we are completely unable to. I'm physics warping this at this point to bring it down a little faster, and that's going to cause these parts to do that. Yes. That's fine for the moment. And of course, we're not going to survive this impact. We don't expect to survive the impact. But downward we go, and we're decelerating. Okay, let's come out of physics warp for the time being. We have basically no control surfaces. We're just trying to do this with the reaction wheels. I'm going to turn the RCS on and see what happens. Okay, we are struggling. But that's expected. Goodbye, Mir Station. Boom. Some bits of it might survive. There's a few explosions occurring. But hey, the service bay survived. Let's open the service bay so that it stops rolling. Oh wait, it's this type of service bay. Well, we at least get some of this scientific equipment recovered. That's reasonably valuable stuff, so we'll take that. Anything that survives is good for us. So, sure. Seems great. So let's bring this right on back. We'll see how much we get from that, but we're also going to get a grand total of 500K from finishing the Mir mission. So that's going to put us back up over 2 million, which is not bad, really. Considering how much we invested in the Mir mission, that was pretty significant. But as I said, I don't really expect finances to be a significant hurdle in this particular series, just because of the way it's structured. It was always going to be more an issue with science. So let's bring this on back. How much did we actually recover there? And there might still be a few other portions that we can recover. So we ended up recovering 3,000 worth. I mean, it's not a lot, but we're going to get our payment for that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, putting us up to 2.1 million. Not bad. And were there any other parts that survived? Let's hop into the tracking station and find out. Actually, quite a number of them. Okay, so we recovered this, which is just a modular girder hub, 35 funds. Okay. We recovered this, which is not anything. This is all debris at this point. So that's fine. There's this Mir core module ship here. What survived this? Oh, the crew cabin, a radiator panel, an RCS fuel tank, a roundified monoprop tank, and some monoprop all survived it. 527 funds. I guess it's something. Sure. So that all seems absolutely fine. At this point, it is time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we're going to get the landing portion of our space shuttle a little bit more under control. That definitely needs work. We need to get the aerodynamic positioning of it. Like, it needs to naturally want to sit at prograde rather than retrograde. And we need to get the actual landing portion a little bit more under control. So those will be things that we will be working on in the next episode. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Shadow Wolf, Andy McGar, Spartan News, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Soccerman12UK, Kentogan, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.